Welcome to the AA Podcast, our little corner of the web where we are not afraid to discuss tough questions like,
when did nutrition, health, movement, and stress management become alternative medicine?
Where we embrace challenges in all aspects of life to become healthier and stronger versions of ourselves.
And where food and movement are the best kinds of medicine, and cooking meals at home is a revolutionary act. Welcome back to another episode of the AA Podcast. This is Ashley Olson.
And I'm Andrea Crane.
We are going to be doing our monthly Q&A, and we had some really good questions this month. So
they were really good questions.
Yeah, so I'm excited to dive into those, and I hope that they are some, I hope they provide some extra wisdom and knowledge for you guys. Which we were a
Preview to the verses.
Yep. So, Andrea, why don't we change things up and you go first?
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was looking for something. Ashley ended up finding this one for me. 1 Timothy 6:20, which is kind of the sentiment that I wanted. Timothy, guard what God has entrusted to you. Avoid godless, foolish discussions with those who oppose you with their so-called knowledge. There you go.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
Kind of a theme today.
It is. And mine is from Proverbs 1:7, which is the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Mm-hmm.
So today we are going to dive into some of our listener questions, which thank you so much for sending those in. We really enjoy getting them. And I hope that even if you're going through the month and you're like, I've always wanted to know about XYZ. Why don't I just shoot over this question to Andrea and Ashley, and then they can add it to their monthly Q&A. We would love that. So please never hesitate. It doesn't have to be like the formal day that we post in social media. Because, let's be real. A lot of times if you're like me, miss a lot of stories and notifications like that. So always feel free to shoot us an email at askaapodcast@gmail.com, or just shoot us a text or instant message on any of the social platforms. So, okay, so let's start off with this great question that says, do you think a personal trainer thrives more on experience or certifications? And I loved the phrase, the wording of this question, because I think thrives is a very key word. But in all shortness, I guess, the answer is no. I don't think a trainer thrives on it, but I will say there is a caveat to my no. And I would say that as a personal trainer, getting your initial certification, if you especially aren't going into a specific field of, like, say, sports medicine, getting a generalized certification from, say, NASM, ACE, any of the AFAA, any of those, one thing that it will do for you as a trainer is build some confidence in you to know, oh, I passed a test. Like, I actually kind of feel good about that. So there is something to say, which is getting that basic certification. And for the most part, most of them are very cost effective, like they're very affordable. I believe back in the day when I got mine, it was like a couple $100, like, so it would be well worth your investment to do that. And also, depending on where you are planning on training or doing your training services, if it is at a commercial gym or any other, even private gyms, a lot of them will require some sort of certification for you to be able to train there. So I think that having that basic certification, one, it builds that confidence in you initially as a trainer. And then most of them, to be honest, are very easy to obtain. especially if you have basic understandings of movement patterns and just the basics of human body. So I would say a weekend or a week of in some studying, like you would be able to confidently go in and take a test like that. So, and then I love the heart of this question where it says thrives. Are you good over there?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh.
Did you see me almost trip over my cord? Okay, sorry. Ashley, I'm so distractible. And as Ashley's like spewing wisdom, I'm over here tripping myself and yeah, nearly
Okay.
getting a concussion. No, we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Yep.
So the heart of this question on the word thrives, and um I believe where a personal trainer begins to truly thrive is when they have hands-on experience, not only just with their own training and their own learning their own body mechanics and their recovery, but when that translates to experience working with clients one-on-one, that confidence level, you start just building that up one by one. I remember back when I first started training, I was terrified of messing up. I was to the book. I literally had every movement written down, which it's not a bad thing, but I was like, if we didn't get through the workout how I had written it down, like I felt like I was a failure. And so just getting that experience with working with different demographics or of individuals and their individual needs, and realizing that a perfect workout written out is great. I think we should always have that aspiration, but there are so many times when a client comes into the room or into the gym, and I literally throw out any plan that I had because one, they sprained their ankle, or maybe they slept wrong and they have a kink in their neck, or maybe
Coming down with something.
they might be coming down with
Mhm.
something. Exactly. So there are more times than not that I've had to throw out my ideal workout plan for them and customize it to what their needs are for that day. And that doesn't make me a bad trainer. If anything, you should be able to do that because that actually makes you
Yes.
a better trainer, because you actually know what their body needs and what will make them feel better and not just destroy them.
Mhm.
Now I am huge on continuing education for trainers, and this is something that is very, with the World Wide Web, the podcast world, with YouTube, there's so much information out there for trainers, as well as just as much information for out there for clients. So going through and figuring out as a trainer who to listen to, where to get your knowledge is going to be something that you're going to have to kind of learn as you go. But there are things like courses that you can take from reputable sources, um, getting different certifications, going to seminars. I love going to in-person seminars. And then, as a trainer, I'm just always making sure that I'm never staying stagnant, that I'm always pushing myself to continue learning. And and then if you're listening to this and you're not a trainer, I'm guessing most of our audience is client base. So if you are looking for a reputable trainer, and it's not me.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, first of all, why? Like, I mean, come on. But if you are looking for a reputable trainer, don't base it solely on just their certification. Um, there are some very reputable certifications out there like CSCS and other ones that require a lot of studying. They're almost like a college degree or maybe an associate's degree. But no, talk to them about their training style, their philosophy of training, and talk to them about like what your needs are. And a good indication of a good trainer, I believe, is somebody that's actually listening to you and not just spewing facts and things at you and telling you this is what we're going to be doing XYZ. And probably within just a few sessions with a trainer, you're going to know, hey, this person actually knows what they're talking about, or they're this feels very, like, textbooky, like, it's not fitting for me, so, that was my short but very long answer.
But maybe also, so, and gosh, in medicine, we have this concept of shared decision making.
Mhm,
And so it's kind of a new concept in family practice because a lot of times providers are like, they speak from on high, like, this is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to do. I don't care if you like
mhm,
it or not. I don't care how you feel about it. I don't even want to know how you feel about it. This is the plan. And so, yeah, I feel like. Uh, and that works for some people, honestly, it does. There are some people that don't want to have any input in their care
mhm.
plan, or their training, for instance. So I think also we just have to, um, you have to acknowledge that you're not going to get along with everybody. And
Mhm,
so somebody might be a jerk. And like if you're not clicking on that level, it doesn't matter how many certifications they have, how much knowledge and experience, and what they've done for other people. If you think they are a total tool, you are not going to be able to work with them. And so there is that, obviously, that you got to connect. There has to be that connection.
100%. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my answer to that as well is, I think experience, in the long term trumps certification. Um, and I can, I guess the sort of relatable thing that I can talk about is being a nutritionist. So Ashley talked about the ability to get a certification in personal training in pretty short order. So you can kind of be a total tool and get a certification, and that's how it is with calling yourself a nutritionist too. Um, so I had a master's degree in nutrition, and somebody with absolutely zero education at all in the state where I was practicing could also call themselves a nutritionist by law and practice just like I did. And so in those circumstances, I think that it pays to look at someone's educational credentials and make sure that they have done enough study. Now, that said, I agree with her about continuing education. Make sure that they're always learning. And this applies across all industries. Somebody that, like, for instance, passes a board certification or gets their personal training certificate, if that's the last learning that they do, you probably don't want to be their client. I know for Ashley, I've watched this girl over the past, oh my gosh, what's it been? 6, 7 years now? It's a
Yeah,
long
I think
time.
so. Yeah.
But I have watched her, just, like, devour things, learning about, new techniques and new styles and, new nutrition, topics and new supplement topics, and, so that's the kind of person that you want, is somebody who has always got their antenna up and, like, what is going on in the world of fitness, and how can I keep up with that and stay on the cutting edge?
100%.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So this next question is really good. So this one,
It is. Y'all were out there thinking.
I know.
That's really good.
So this question says, I'd like to naturally raise my testosterone levels. And caveat, this is not caveat, but the preface, this is a female asking this. So I'd like to naturally raise my testosterone levels. Is this even possible at age 36 and a female?
Okay. Well, so first of all, I just wanted to talk about testosterone and its importance. So a lot of times when we talk about female hormones, so there's kind of a triad of hormones that we talk about with females, and everybody knows about progesterone and estrogen. Those are the two primary feminizing hormones. But then we kind of forget to talk about testosterone a lot of times. And it's a really key hormone for women. Just like estradiol is, which is an estrogen, it's a biological estrogen. Estradiol is a key topic for men. It has cardioprotective properties and osteoporotic protective properties, just like it does for women. So anyway, talking about women and testosterone, it is related to proper and normal healthy sex drive. It is related to muscle building and retention. It's related to getting a good sleep, a good restorative sleep. Also, for it assists with weight loss. Now, testosterone by itself is not a weight loss agent, but in being able to build and maintain muscle, it also helps with weight loss because muscle is obviously more metabolically active than fat. Um, Also, for maintaining bone density, testosterone is great. Testosterone is also instrumental in hair growth and mood elevation, memory, sharp focus. So, a lot of these things, like when we see perimenopausal and postmenopausal women talk about, gosh, I've got this brain fog, blah, blah, blah. In my practice, my practice partner and I, we test hormones all the time in women. In fact, that's part of our yearly panel. And we practice family medicine. So, we see people from birth to death, basically. But in women, we always, always, always check hormone levels every single year because these really matter. Um, so, I I want to, let's see, I'm just trying to decide where I want to go next. So I'll talk about the fact that, adequate testosterone levels help all of those things that I just mentioned, but then it's kind of a Goldilocks hormone because you can absolutely get too much. So some women kind of get hip to this testosterone piece of things and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I need testosterone. It's going to do all of these things for me." Except that you can absolutely have too much. And so that leads to acne, leads to oily skin. Think teenage boy. And so all of all of the oily, uh, ragey, salty mess that comes with that, you are inviting into your life. Too much testosterone. So there you go. But, moody, you can have frontal balding because testosterone will necessarily be converted to dihydrotestosterone, which takes the front of your hair off. You can also get an enlarged clitoris and deepen your voice. Now, ladies, these are not attractive, and yet they are irreversible. So please don't go out there and just like get these walloping doses of testosterone. Um, you can also experience infertility, menstrual irregularity. And so a condition like PCOS is kind of in the public eye right now. People are getting very hip to this condition. It's very, very common in women. And what we see, one of the primary drivers in polycystic ovarian syndrome or PCOS is it's an androgen dominance, and androgens are male hormone, and typically that is testosterone. So PCOS, androgen or testosterone driven. So now I want to talk about measuring testosterone. So before we even can talk about repleting it or making it elevating our levels of testosterone, we need to know, do you even need to elevate your levels of testosterone, right? There may be something else going on. So I like the adage, or don't guess, test, right? So you
Mm.
want to test, you want to see, and that is precisely why we run hormone panels every year on our patients. So make sure you're measuring the right thing. So you can measure total testosterone and you can measure free testosterone. So I want to talk to you about total testosterone. There is a fraction of total testosterone that is bound by a protein called sex hormone binding globulin, or SHBG. So, when it's bound to sex hormone binding globulin, the testosterone can't do any good. So, essentially, you could have this bucket of testosterone, and if most of it is bound by that protein, it's not doing any good. So we actually need to know both the total testosterone, but then we need to ratchet down and look at the free testosterone. So this is the stuff that's not bound. And that is going to be like a 1 to 10 ratio of unbound to bound testosterone. So if your bound testosterone is like, let's say 25, then your unbound is going to be around 2.5, if that makes sense. Um, so unbound testosterone, that's the testosterone that's actually working in your body. So you could have a ton of free and not much I mean, I'm sorry. You could have a ton of total testosterone and not much free testosterone. And if you're only measuring total, your provider will say, "No, look, you're totally fine." But if they don't look at the free testosterone, then you don't know what's actually exerting a physiological effect. Okay?
It's much like a thyroid panel.
Much
If you're
like thyroid, if they're
I
measuring free versus total.
Yep.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so I'm going to give some numbers because um, that's what we do. So anybody under 50, so this questioner is age 36 and a female. So any woman under 50 that has less than 25 total or less than 1.5 free is considered to have low testosterone. And we can supplement at that point with either bioidentical testosterone preparations, which is all that we use in practice, or over 50, we're looking at if you've got less than 20 or less than 1.0, and that's total and free, respectively, then you are considered to have low testosterone. Now, um, I want to make sure that people understand these are kind of conventional levels. So I like to see people under 50 and also my perimenopausal patients. I like to see them at 40 and 4. Okay, so that's quite a bit higher than that threshold. So I like to maintain them at around that level.
Why do you do that? But why do you like that so much higher?
I like that higher because when we talk about conventional lab ranges, often this doesn't optimize health. So yeah, you
Mhm.
can be within range, but you can still be kind of limping along.
Mhm.
So in order to optimize health, I like to see that number a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So now the questioner asked about natural ways to raise testosterone. You can do weight bearing exercise. That's probably the biggest way to elevate testosterone. You want to make sure that you are building plenty of muscle tissue, that you're eating plenty of protein. However, um, do all of that. And then you can also supplement with a little bit of DHEA. This is dihydroepiandrosterone, and it is a steroid precursor in the body. So, androgens come from DHEA. So the body takes DHEA, converts it to testosterone, then converts it to dihydrotestosterone. And then in the peripheral tissues, if there's too much of it, often it will convert it to estradiol. So we have to be careful with that too. Um, so I would recommend that somebody with their provider's help, please get your levels checked. You can supplement with some DHEA, or you can supplement with some compounded bioidentical testosterone cream that you apply to thin-skinned areas. Can be like forearms, can be inner thigh, but these are just creams that rub in, and they can replete your testosterone. And if you're not getting good effects with DHEA, then I would say, you probably need to go the compounded route. But I would check back. I usually have people check back in 90 days. You can go 3 to 6 months out and check back and see what your levels are at that point.
Awesome. Really good
Okay.
information.
Okay.
Okay, so next question is, and definitely go back and listen to our episodes on protein that just happened a
Mm-hmm.
couple weeks ago. But this question is overconsumption of protein a real thing? And if so, what are the possible negative effects? So basically, as with everything, too much of a good thing is most likely not a good thing. So
Mm-hmm.
just like water's a good thing, you can literally drown yourself. You've seen those stupid challenges and somebody dies,
Oh my gosh.
right? And mainly it's because they've drank too much in a short
I
amount
think
of
they
time.
call those
But
the Darwin Awards, but yeah.
oh, yeah. So just like with protein, I mean, there is a point that too much protein will turn um, into it'll act like a carb, right, in the
Oh,
body.
gluconeogenesis. Yeah, it'll
Yes,
turn it
glucone.
into, yeah.
Yes, thank you. So But there are some studies that I did pull up because we're very much about wanting to always go back to what's going on in science and literature and what the discussions are. But there are some studies on ingesting more protein than the recommended daily is it allowance or allowance
Allowance. Hmm.
suggests of having positive effects on lean muscle mass and body composition,
Hmm.
especially coupled with um, resistance training. So definitely check out those studies. For sure, I know Bill Campbell is one of the researchers on that. And if you don't follow me very closely on Instagram, I share his stuff all the time. He is a professor down in Florida and does incredible work on protein, muscle building, body composition. And what I love about him too is that he does a lot of the study on females because if you look back in a lot of the PubMed studies, most of it, especially in the last 50 plus 100 years, is all male
No, it's
typically.
rats or men. It's either rats or men, always.
Put your headphone down.
Oh, rats or men.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's really going along trying to change the um
Research
research,
landscape. Hmm.
yeah, to make sure that females are in that because we are definitely different. But so if you don't know this, the RDA, the recommended daily allowance for protein for males is 56 grams of protein.
Ridiculous. A
If
day.
you look a day.
Hmm. Hmm.
I I don't even know how they even came up with that number. Do you?
You know, generally these RDA numbers are, they will look at a reference disease. And so in this case, the reference disease per se would be like sarcopenia. And so, how much protein does it take to stave off a reference disease? So, how much protein does it take before you completely waste all of your muscle? Well, that may be an average of 56 grams per day. But again, we're talking, how do we optimize human living? How do we maintain the muscle that we have?
Right.
This doesn't account for any of that.
And I believe it was in our protein episode too, where a lot of the recommended daily allowance for especially protein, these studies were done like 20 some plus years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And now there's totally new research being done, but also even anti uh, I can't say that word, anecdotal
Mhm.
evidence
Mhm.
that higher protein
Yeah.
amounts are actually very beneficial.
Yeah.
So I guess in my digging for some research stuff, there was one study that I found on high protein intake where there was an association between that and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Hmm.
Andrea, have you heard of this study and what are your thoughts?
No, I took a look at it when you included it in our show notes for today. And this is the kind of stuff that drives me absolutely crazy. So I got a little salty when reading this stupid study. There is so much garbage literature out there. Like literally, you can go to Google Scholar and you can type up whatever conclusion you want to back up, and you'll find studies. In fact, you may find scads of studies. But the problem is, people will sit, they'll read an abstract, they will read the title. Some people don't even read the abstract, they just read the title and say, oh, look, here's a study that shows blah, blah, blah. Well, you don't know if it shows that or not if you don't go through the study design and actually look at what's in there. So I looked at this study because it's like, well, I've never heard that protein is potentially related to non alcoholic fatty liver disease. Um, because we see that all the time in practice, but generally it is because of a state of obesity and chronic elevated blood glucose, which is basically type 2 diabetes. um, oh, and also, conditions like untreated hypertension, which leads to kidney disease, blah blah blah. So anyway, I was very curious to read this, and as I'm reading, I'm just like, my face is getting just more and more unhappy because I'm looking at this. This is a study, and I use that term very loosely because they looked at 61 individuals. That's it. And this is supposed to be a meta analysis. This is supposed to be a review. They looked at 61 people, and honestly, what they came up with is that there is a correlation, not a causative effect. They said, well, the people with NAFLD, they ingested more protein. Now, they also didn't say what that protein was. They didn't say they ate, 6 more hot dogs a day or a tub of lunch meat more than the people that didn't have non-alcoholic fatty liver. And so there's no accounting for the quality of the protein, which, as we know, it matters. Um also, their exclusion criteria, guys, you have to look at this. You've got to look at exclusion criteria. So, as they were combing the literature to determine which studies would go into this meta analysis, they decided to exclude based on, oh my gosh, it was some ridiculous criteria. Oh, it was whether or not they'd had a recent round of antibiotics. I kid you not. So, I am looking at this going, are you kidding me? So you're trying to villainize protein consumption, and you are not excluding, well, what they're trying to do is link protein consumption to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But what they're not doing is they're not excluding for type 2 diabetes. They're not excluding for hypertension. These are two of the primary drivers. So if I've got a patient that has uncontrolled hypertension, I am absolutely checking kidney function. If I have a person with type 2 diabetes, I am also checking kidney function once, if not twice per year. And in those patients, you bet we're going to look at protein consumption and we're going to see if they can tolerate what I'd like for them to have. If I have a patient in renal failure, kidney failure, if they are anywhere on the kidney disease spectrum, you bet I am going to look at their protein consumption and I may ratchet it down based on their kidney disease. Um,
But
but
would you also agree that you're gonna look at the types of protein that they're consuming too?
well, of course, I'm going to clean up their diet. But even so, if somebody's got raging kidney disease, even if they are eating the best, well sourced meats, I still can't have them eating a ton of it because it will lead to decreased kidney function.
So,
Yeah.
sorry, keep going, but, what would be considered a ton?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. It's completely individual. It's
Mhm.
completely individual.
And
And
that
so,
was the thing that I got frustrated with some of these studies is, like, they didn't actually tell you how
no,
much.
no, they don't. They don't.
Like,
And
they're just
yeah,
saying don't
right,
anything that's over the RDA, and it's like, okay, well, you
right,
can't maintain muscle mass,
right.
especially as we're aging with
Yeah,
freaking 56 grams of protein for
yeah,
males and much less for females.
right. And so that's where, but see, that's where if you've got a patient and they have kidney failure, there's some irreversible damage that has been done. And folks, this damage is irreversible to the kidneys. Once the nephrons are dead, you can't claw them back. And so once you've kind of reached that point, and generally this is from poorly controlled type 2 diabetes or poorly controlled hypertension. Okay. So if you're not out there controlling your blood sugar, and getting it checked, and you're not out there controlling your hypertension or your high blood pressure, then you can have some organ damage as a result of those conditions. So once those organs have been damaged, patients sometimes will get religion and they'll say, hey, I want to turn this around and I want to eat all this protein and I want to build all this muscle. And it's like, you know, I, I hear you, and let's do the best that we can. But sometimes we reach points of no return, right? So sometimes we have gone past that last off ramp. And that was our last chance for normalcy. And that is now in the rear view. So now we want to optimize as much as we can with what we have left. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So yeah, so anyway, you can hear my frustration about these studies, because anybody with normal healthy kidney function, they've got controlled blood glucose, they're not hypertensive, they need to really ratchet up their protein levels, and actually you need more as you age and not less.
Yep. Go back to our episodes. We talk about this specific thing in episode
Yes.
1, and then in episode 2 we tell you exactly how to get more protein. So,
Uh-huh.
yep. So, all right, are you done?
Well, so this is the clarion call for, please just don't read the title of a study, or here's the
Or
other
any
thing.
type of article.
Yeah, don't let somebody send you this bull crap. Like, find out, if somebody is telling you, "Oh, you shouldn't be eating all that protein. That's bad for your kidneys." Say, "Oh, please provide chapter and verse on that. Please, where did you get your information?" And if they're like, "Well, Dr. So and so said, on this television channel," that is a logical fallacy. It's called an appeal to authority. So just because Dr. So and so said it doesn't mean that Dr. So and so didn't pull it out of their butts. So I want you to,
Or get it
really.
from a really crappy study like
Yes.
this.
Or yes, precisely. So you got to know how to read these things. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to sit down and look at this and say, even if you're not trained in how to read a study, you can still sit down and say, "Oh my gosh, they only looked at 61 people." And as you're reading, you're formulating these questions. Well, like Ashley was like, "Okay, well, how much is too much?" They keep saying, "Don't eat too much." How much is too much? Like, what, put some numbers on this, but they don't, because they don't have the data.
Exactly. So,
Done.
bottom line, we are big proponents of protein. We
Yeah.
love our protein. We want you to eat all the protein.
Hmm.
Um,
Well
so
sourced. Well
well
sourced.
sourced.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. All right. This one also might be another salty question.
No.
Actually, it's a sweet question. It's a
It is a
sweet,
sweet question.
yeah. Okay. Thoughts on artificial sweeteners?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Do you want to
Go
go
for it, girl.
first? Oh, okay. So my bottom line is not great.
Yep.
Like,
Agreed.
there are long-term negative effects on the body.
Hmm.
Now, I'm going to come from a completely different point of view than potentially. I will agree. I think, uh, maybe.
And listen, as my Uncle Jerry always said, we don't have to agree on everything, because if we do, one of us is not necessary.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, coming from a completely surface level of, if I have somebody coming to me that is really struggling with weight loss, um, then and they are, say they are addicted to sugary things. S- If there is somebody like that and we could substitute for a time to help them change some habits, I'm not going to demonize artificial sweeteners for them during that time. However, as you all know, I want myself and all my clients to prioritize whole sources of food. So, if this is kind of like a stepping stone for them to get to that point where they can um, learn to adjust their habits to include more whole sources of food,
More
then
horses.
please don't eat horses.
Sorry.
We yeah. Then I'm like I said, I'm not going to demonize it for them, but the
Yeah.
ultimate goal is to get them off of those kinds of things.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's kind of my short answer on that one.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna land in the same place on that. So, um, okay, first of all, I'm gonna kind of go through the artificial sweeteners in order of my disdain for them. So the
Which I'm looking at the show notes here, and I'm excited that she's going to be doing this because this is super cool information.
Oh, well, good, good. I'm glad
Well,
I
I
have
hope you
a
find
little
it
bit of
really
that.
cool.
I know. I hope they do too. We'll see. Um, so first of all, what I absolutely do not like, I don't like aspartame, acesulfame, sucralose. Any of those old school like pink packets, blue packets, those are terrible. Sucralose, which is Splenda, also not good. It has a very detrimental effect on your gut microbiome, on beneficial bugs in your gut microbiome.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't like any of those. I don't recommend that anybody eat those ever at all.
Yeah.
Um,
And just from my
mhm.
perspective, so any diet type of Coke, it
Oh yeah.
has
Mhm.
aspartame.
Yeah. Yeah, now in honor of being completely honest here, let's see, what do I drink that has acesulfame? I'm trying to think. There is something um oh, no, it's Splenda. So, I have some sugar-free coffee syrups that
Mm.
I've had for a long time in the pantry, and I am working my way through them. It's gonna take me years because I don't drink them very often, but occasionally, I will make a, latte, and I will put some of that syrup in there, and it is sweetened with sucralose, which is Splenda. So yes, there is this idea of kind of a 90-10 rule. I don't like 90-10. I like more like 95-5 or 98-2. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. So I am not a teetotaler perfectionist, but I do go out of my way 98% of the time to avoid those sweeteners. So here is a medium level of disdain. That belongs to the sugar alcohols. Now, at the bottom of the list is going to be mannitol, maltitol, sorbitol. Okay. These guys they will cause some serious explosive diarrhea. They will turn your backside into a potato gun, and you don't want any of that.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
If any of you have read the gummy bear review on Amazon for the sugar-free gummy bears, you must you must run, not walk, and read that. So actually, I'm gonna try and find it and add the link to the show notes because it's a famous review, and you just have to have this in your life.
Oh
But
no.
those are sweetened. That is exactly what I'm talking about with these sugar alcohols. So they are a part of a food group called FODMAPs. So FODMAP stands for fermentable oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyols. So these sugar alcohols are polyols, and yeah, polyol. They will destroy you. Um, they will make you wish you had it. So that's all I'll say about that. Now, the next one that is
Well,
the
talk on the xylitol.
oh yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Oh,
So erythritol, so of this group, those that mannitol, maltitol, sorbitol, those are the worst of the worst.
okay.
Now then there's erythritol. It can cause some gas and bloating, but it's not as bad as those other three. So erythritol, again, not as bad, especially when used judiciously. It can be fine. Um, then there's the one that I kind of like that's called xylitol. It also has some antibacterial properties. So sometimes pathogenic bacteria that like make their home in your oral cavity or make their home in your sinus cavities, they can form these biofilms and they're really hard to get rid of. Xylitol is actually a biofilm disrupting compound. This is exactly why I recommend I have like a protocol that I like to recommend for my patients with chronic sinus issues. And one of the things in my protocol is that I like them to use a xylitol nasal spray. And so that helps break up biofilm and can help disrupt some of those bacteria that cause those consistent sinus infections and sinus problems. But it works extremely well. Now, it also disrupts the bacteria that cause cavities in your teeth. And so xylitol chewing gum is fantastic. It lasts about 3.8 seconds, so it's quite an expensive habit, but it breaks up bacteria that cause cavities in your teeth. So I love it for like a mouth rinse. I love it for chewing gum. Um, and I like it for a sweetener. Okay. Now, and it also has very few GI issues associated with it. Now, the best is going to be monk fruit. All right. That is probably my number one recommendation. As of about a year ago, stevia was also in this top recommendation list. However, I have discovered some studies that date back to like the 50s and the 60s. We've known about stevia for a very long time. It's a natural leaf. In fact, I'm going to try and grow it here at my house. For next year's garden season, so stay tuned. Uh, but stevia has some really, really cool compounds in it. There are also some antimicrobial things that come out of stevia. So it's a sweet leaf. And it's fine, except that certain indigenous populations in Africa and maybe South America too, actually use it for contraception. Yes, you heard that right. So stevia has become all the rage within our health and wellness communities, except that I see you, Ashley. Yes, you probably got some clients that have been talking to you about this, but there are major, major fertility issues going on with people right now. And there's 1,000 reasons why this might be happening. But for my patients who are desiring to conceive and can't, one of the things that I do is get stevia out of their diets. So yeah, actually a lot of old studies, and one that I came across, again, well designed, thank you very much, rat study, but still, there was up to an 80% drop in fertility in both sexes. Okay. And these effects held months after their last use. So once you discontinue the stevia, it could be months before your fertility is back to where it should be. So, anyway, that's just something that most people don't know. There's a lot of people that have really glommed onto this stevia train. And I mean, it's great, but if you're trying to conceive, that is not the best sweetener for you. So, my I think my bottom line is I find it most important and most helpful with patients when I talk to them about retooling their taste buds. It's not good that we crave all of this hyper sweet, hyper palatable food. It's not good for us because then things like berries, things that are naturally sweet, fruit, apples, they don't taste sweet to us anymore. So, what I really like to do is reset people's palates. And this can take, 2 months. 3 months. And so when people say that, I have tried eating like this, I've tried no sugar, I've tried no sweets, I've tried no artificial sweeteners, and I've been doing it for 3 weeks and berries still don't taste good to me. Well, you know what? You got to keep going because it takes longer to regenerate a taste bud than that. So, when you reset and retool your taste buds, then for those few times that you do eat sweets, we can use real sweeteners like maple syrup, the real stuff. We can use local honey. We can use organic cane sugar. We can use molasses, which is amazing as a sulfur donor as well. So that's kind of my diatribe on artificial sweeteners.
That was great. I loved it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. So our last question is, what are you and Ashley's my favorite
That's
forms
you.
of movement for yourselves currently?
Okay, listen here. Listen here. I see good mornings as the first thing you mentioned. You would not do those with me. Yes. Please tell me what
I
happened.
know. So, as I mentioned earlier, I like to learn and get better.
Ah,
And I have been liking good mornings lately.
okay. All right.
So they're excellent for hip mobility.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. Lengthening and strengthening of the hamstrings and the glutes.
Okay.
So, and there are
Okay.
different variations on it that you can do standing, seated. You can do barbell, you can do dumbbell, you can do body weight. In
Mm,
fact, most of my clients, when I have them doing them, I'm having them start with body weight to get the movement, the feeling
awesome.
down.
Like
So,
hands behind your head?
yep, or even just
Mhm.
like in a 90-degree.
Love it.
So yeah, they have some good things going for them. So yeah. Um and the other things that I just love and I always try to incorporate, I'm always doing some type of hip thrust variation, doing some type of deadlift variation. I'm big on chin ups, pull ups, and this one isn't necessarily my favorite because of um all of the benefits from it necessarily. I just love how it feels. The
Mm.
straight arm dumbbell
Oh,
pullover. When you're
yeah.
laying down on the bench and you're I call it like the diamond hold or the
Uh-huh.
goblet squat hold of the end of the dumbbell and you're just doing straight arms over your head trying to get as much of a stretch as you can. I just love how it feels. So,
Yeah. And you know what? To be honest, that's why I have always loved Good Mornings is because of the stretch. Like
mm,
that big hamstring stretch, you
yeah.
just don't get that from like any other movement during like throughout your day.
Yeah.
So anyway,
The other
yeah.
one that I like that is similar to the Good Mornings is you're standing on some type of elevated surface and then you actually are just folding over it, rounding your upper back and just falling, stretching
Hmm.
down towards your toes, and just kind of, it's almost like a rag doll, but it's deeper than a rag doll.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the official name of that movement. It's more of a stretch, but it's also a very good one. So
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
mine. What are yours, Andrea?
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, well, first of all, what I've been recommending to patients have been, I found, oh my gosh, I found an amazing study recently, again, well designed, on wall sits and
Mm-hmm.
other forms of isometric exercise where you're literally just sitting there. So it's this isometric contraction, it lowers blood pressure. And yes, that's what the study was about. And it
Oh.
was better than any other form of movement. In fact, even among all the isometric exercises they looked at, wall sits were right at the top for lowering blood pressure. And it was significant too. So I've been I have been prescribing wall sits for all of my hypertensive patients. They hate me. Yeah, I've been doing wall sits in the clinic. So yeah, it's incredible. So yes, please add those to your repertoire.
Love it.
Also, I love air squats because I can literally do them anytime, anywhere. And that's just body weight air squats. And then, because sometimes, gosh, your days just get so busy and I am not a perfectionist. I fall short every single day of my life. I fall short of my goals, my health and fitness goals. Um, but air squats are something that I can do. I can rep out 25 of them at a time in seconds. And, when you accumulate 6 or 8 sets of those in the course of a day, you've actually done something.
Mhm,
So, yeah, I really appreciate those. I also appreciate push-ups because you can
mhm.
do them on any surface. So I will do these on my desk. You just put your hands as low as you can go and then you just do it till failure. And so yeah, I appreciate the push up again because it's so accessible anywhere you are. Now when I can get to the gym, any form of deadlift I love. Any form of squats, I do box, pistol, B stance, all of those squats. I like triceps, like skull crushers or those overhead tri pulls, over your head on a pulley.
Yeah, mhm.
I can't remember what those are called. Tricep extensions, maybe?
Yep, mhm.
Okay. And then I love lats, like the wide grip pull down for lats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Love those. Well, that
I do miss
mm,
working out with you.
I miss you too, girl. We got to figure out how to do that. They need to make a space-time portal for us so we can just
Right?
beam over there into Colorado. So, yeah. Anyway,
We'll do it soon.
yeah,
Alright. Well, I think that wraps it up well, I know it wraps up this episode.
it does.
I
We
hope
have answered
you
all the questions.
We have exhausted
Yes,
ourselves.
that's right. Now we're gonna go take a nap.
Yes. I hope you guys found this episode not only entertaining because it's us, but also very informational. And we'll link some of those things that we talked about in the show notes. And like I said earlier in the beginning, please always send us questions. We love getting your questions. So send those our way via our
Yes.
email. Our contact information is in the show notes as well. And then if you're enjoying these episodes and you would do us a big favor and give us that 5-star glowing review, we would appreciate it. And the highest compliment that we can ever receive from you is this being sharing our episodes with your friends and family, whether that's via text or even on the socials. That's just such a big compliment to us.
Thank you.
So thank you for those that do that. And yeah, we will catch you on the next episode.
Bye-bye. The content provided in the AA podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The podcast is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. The information and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not constitute medical advice.